to the Hondo and to gather our scattered thoughts so we can receive the Dharma. So please put your hands together. Again, good morning.
Good morning.
As we are able to gather together in a safe and beautiful place to observe the monthly memorial service, we are mindful of the many difficulties to many people in all life that have been suffering in the last week or so in Puerto Rico, Florida, Pakistan, and so many other places. So we are grateful to be able to gather and hear the Dharma. We will now have fruit and floor offerings from the Dharma School. Juliana and Paulina. Thank you. Laverne Sensei will now lead us in a meditation.
Please join me in Gassho as I read The foundation of Shinran's revolutionary approach to awakening is the practice of shifting our mindset from an attitude of please to the reality of thank you. These are words from Reverend Dr. Kenji Akahoshi. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. And now just sit for a few minutes in quiet meditation and reflection of those things for which we are today grateful. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.
Laverne Sensei will now read the names of the Shotsuki Hoyo families who have passed away in the month of October. During the reading of the names, the persons or family members, representatives who lost people during the month of October are welcome to offer incense.
This is the October Shotsuki Hoyo monthly memorial service list. Ikichi Ito family. Itsuemon Tanaka, Dr. Brian Tanaka. Yasaku Nakamura, Yukiko Sugiyama. Tatsujiro Yonekura family. Masaichi Yamada family. Sueichi Azuma, Shizuka Azuma. Ito Fukamizu, Ninomiya family. Jinkichi Yamasaki family. Reverend Guzei Nishii family. Nobuzo Kida family. Katsue Takashima, Wilbur Takashima. Tsuneichi Hirata, Katsi Hirata. Otoshichi Ochi, Janet Ochi Fontanat. Kazuya Himaka family. Tsuneichi Sameshima, Takashi Sameshima. Kanzo Okuni, Akira Okuni. Koichi Fujii, Katsumi Kida. Zentaro Asamen, Masako Uyaji. Toshino Hamano, Emiko Hamano. Takeshi Monji family. Tomoyo Kuwada, Kanji Kuwada. Fukuyo Matsumoto, Shintaro Matsumoto. Mitsuye Sugioka family. Ume Tsurudome family. Kotono Takahashi, Ruth Voorhees. Kasuke Hashiguchi family. Sam Sugita, Jean Sugita. Gen Iwasaki, Kubota family. Mine Imai, Fumiko Ohara. Katsu Yamaguchi family. Matsu Kusaka family. Hatsu Shibata, Ishikawa family. Shimako Hanaoka, Kayako Hanaoka. Roy Hosoka family. Fujie Ochi, Janet Ochi Fontanat. Haruye Tsuneyoshi, Miki Tsuneyoshi. Ritsuko Abe, Walter Gilday. Michie Kuroiwa, Sonoko Kuroiwa. Muto Kawahara, Takeshi and Yoshito Kawahara. Helen Haruyo Kawahara, Takeshi and Yoshito Kawahara. Charlie Torio, Betty Torio. Jimmy Shinohara, Janice Shinohara. Tomi Yada family. Betty Harvey Teague family. Aiko Tachiki family. Tadashi Yano, Tamako Yano. Chiseko Oya, Ayako Linda Seiyu. Haruno Mayakawa, Aren Mayakawa. Minoru Takasugi family. Nancy Tsukiko Imai, Fumiko Ohara. Toyoko Yonekura family, Tsuruko Louise Osaki, Gail Furuya, Emi Himaka Shimizu, Gordon Shimizu, Yoshinori Tsunematsu, Yukari Williams, Ayako Kaminaka, Wayne Kaminaka, Frank Doi, Doris Doi, John Inoue, Craig Inoue, Aiko Muraoka, Roy Muraoka, Tadashi Kitano, Margie Kitano, Takashi Mayumi, Mitsuko Kawamoto, Tom Tamotsu Sugioka, Dennis Sugioka, Yusaku Kuroiwa, Sonoko Kuroiwa, Tatsuo Richard Takashima, Ronald Takashima, Robert Susumu Sasaki, Gail Slemon, Raymond J. Sakao, Toshiko Sakao, Kimiye Date, Shirley Umekubo, Teruko Hobbs, James N. Hobbs, Mary Suyenaga family, Reverend Teshi Aoyama, Alice Aoyama, Kisae Ohara, Anne Ohara, Hiroshi Kubota, Edward Kubota, Chieko Moriyama family, Roy Yonekura, Susan Yonekura, Tomio Ota family, Mio Hill family.
Thank you. If you could open your service books, we will be chanting the sutra Junirai. It can be found on page 24 of your service book with the introduction on page 23. Junirai are the 12 hymns of worship, which was written by the first of 7 spiritual fathers of Jodoshinshu Naharuna. It praises Amida Buddha, his land, and the Bodhisattvas.
Keishu Tennin Shokugyo Amida Senryoku Son Zai Mimeu Anrako Muryo Bushi Shuineu Konjiki Shinjo Nyo Senno Shamata Gyo Nyozobu Ryomoku Jonyaku Shorenge Koga Chorai Midason Menzen Enjo Nyomangat Iko Yunyo Sennichigat Shonyo Tenku Kushira Koga Chorai Mikson Kannon Chodai Kanchuju Shuju Meuso Shogon Nobukuge Doma Keuman Koga Chorai Midason Mubi
徳経験予告小さり悪徳自在子が将来みだそん法名門菩薩衆無料小魔上三段異生衆上願力十子が将来みだそん根体保険地承継前言症状名大座おひざ上如洗脳子が将来みだそん実法将来勝負し権限人図し安楽戦後尊厳上苦行子が将来みだそん小無常無我と薬尿水眼伝よろ異種説法無名字子が将来みだそん非尊無戦無悪名薬無女人悪道夫主任死心教非尊子が将来みだそん非尊無料法勉強小衆悪知識往生不体死亡大子が将来みだそん河川非尊苦毒寺修善無変尿海水小逆前言小乗者エセ修上小非公ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブがにしくどく平等性一切同本菩提心往生 南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏。
Thank you. Would you please rise if you're able for the recitation of the three treasures? It can be found on page 91 in your service book. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves our supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal brotherhood, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we're able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, Namandab. Thank you. We will please remain standing. We will now have the Gatha, a special place. You can find it on page 100 in your service book.
outside. All anger is forgotten. The Dharma is my guide. There is a special something here. It's something you can see. For kindness lives within this place. It lives inside of me. Buddha stands inside the shrine, a smile upon his face. I smile right back. I'm glad to be here in this special place. Now there's time to sit and think of all that I can do to care for those around me each day the whole week through. This is a home in gentle thoughts when sitting quietly. For kindness lives within this place. It lives inside of me. It lives inside of me.
Thank you. You may be seated. We will now have a Dharma message from Laverne Sensei.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see all of you, and especially the children here. Did you have a good taiko lesson before service? Did you have a fun one? Yes, I see a lot of nodding heads. It's wonderful. So, what is the Dharma School theme for this year? Anybody shout it out really loud. Go ahead, Lorena. Resilience. Resilience, that's a big word. So what I'd like to do is I would like for you, so today the theme of my Dharma talk is resilience, and I'd like for you to join me in Gassho, please. The foundation of Shinran's revolutionary approach to awakening is the practice of shifting our mindset from an attitude of please to the reality of thank you. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. So these words should sound familiar because they are the words of Reverend Dr. Kenji Akahoshi, who was our most recent resident minister. And I think most of you here today remember Akahoshi Sensei, but some of you are new and maybe don't remember him, although he and Ms. Karen left, only about a year ago. But that year ago sometimes seems a long time, sometimes not so long. My wish is that for those of you who remember Kenji Sensei, and I want you to remember this teaching. He taught us in simple words, and that was the reason that we came to temple, right? To hear the Dharma and to understand and learn the Dharma. That's why we come. We come to learn the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha and Shinran Shonin so that we can live happy lives, so we can become the most authentic, the most best selves that we can be. Two things I will always remember Kenji Sensei teaching me are, instead of always saying please, let's learn to say thank you. And also, let's try to change within ourselves from always thinking about I or me first, and change that to thinking maybe of others. And remember what he used to say? What did he used to say? From me to we. Yeah. So what does this have to do with resilience? In fact, exactly what is resilience? So being resilient means that when we have a problem, we're able to find ways to deal with that problem in a healthy and positive way. And so exactly how do we learn, especially for you children that are in Dharma school? How can I learn to be resilient, you might ask? Does Shakyamuni Buddha and Shinran Shonin teach us how to be resilient? You know, they do. They do. Shakyamuni Buddha taught us through the 6 paramitas that Smitty Sensei shared at the Ohigan service. We learn it by reciting our pledge that was written by Gomonshu-sama, Otani Kojun, and we learn it by reciting the golden chain. And we learn from our parents at home, and we learn from our Dharma school teachers, right, in class. But one of my favorite ways of learning, and some of you already know this, is through stories. Through stories. You know, I'm from Hawaii, and one of the phrases that we have in Hawaii is to talk story, you know, to share stories with each other. That's how we get to know each other. That's how we learn from each other. So, you know that I love, love, love stories, but this is being live streamed, and I didn't want to complicate things by sharing a book. So what I did instead was I went to the website and I found a story that I really loved. It was written and shared by Reverend Kerry Kiyohara of the Makawao Honganji Buddhist Temple in Maui. And I've made some edits, so I'm hoping that even if Kiyohara Sensei is listening, I hope he'll forgive me for those small edits. So here's the story. Once upon a time, in a magical place called San Diego, which was a beautiful city next to the big blue Pacific Ocean, there lived a little girl and a little boy. Well, San Diego is filled with all kinds of kind and gentle people who always said hello with a big smile and sometimes big friendly hugs, at least especially before COVID. One day, the little girl and the little boy were walking to school. How many of you walk to school these days? Oh, yeah, one? One walks to school, okay. and his mommy and or daddy walk him to school every day. Well, when they were walking to school, suddenly a school bully, a big kid who was always grumpy and who was always mean, he stopped the little girl and the little boy and he said, "Give me your lunch money." The little girl and the little boy, you know what? They smiled and they said, "Thank you." And they gave the bully their lunch money. Well, the school bully was very surprised because usually kids were really afraid of him, and that made him feel strong. But those kids, they'd be afraid and they would give him their lunch money. Well, this time the school bully was kind of confused. So he looked at the little girl and the little boy and he thought, I don't get it, but he gave their lunch money back because he was kind of confused. And the little girl and the little boy said, "Thank you," and took their money back. A little while later, that same day at school, the little girl and the little boy met up with some bigger kids, bigger than they were, and those big kids started teasing them. And one of the big boys said to the little boy, he said, "You are stupid." And he laughed. Well, that little boy, he smiled and he said, "Thank you. Yep, I need to study harder. Thank you." And one of the other big kids said to the little girl, "You're dumb," and started laughing at her. Well, the little girl, you know what she said? She smiled and she said, "Thank you. Yeah, I need to study harder too. So thank you for reminding me." Well, these other big kids, they were confused because usually the little kids that they teased would usually cry. And then that would make them feel powerful. So they stopped teasing the little girl and boy and they walked away. Well, at recess, the same little girl and little boy were playing in the sandbox and they were making a big castle in the sand. And suddenly, the big bully and all the bigger kids came over to the sandbox and ran over their castle, totally destroyed it. Well, what would I have done? I might have just started crying and being upset. And the school bully and the big kids, they were sure that the little girl and the boy would cry this time, but nope. That little girl and the little boy just smiled and said, "Thank you. Now we can make an even bigger, better castle, so thank you." Well, now the school bully and the bigger kids were really confused because usually the kids that they bullied would be sad and they would start to cry. So there they were, kind of shaking their heads and saying, what's wrong with these kids? They say thank you too much. And it's no fun to bully or tease them. And just then, a teacher appeared before them all. And the teacher smiled and said, "Hey, what happened, children? Why are you looking so confused?" The school bully said, "Teacher, I was mean to the little girl and boy, and I took their lunch money, and all they said was thank you." I was really, really confused because usually kids are scared of me. So I gave them their money back. And guess what? They said thank you again. And the bigger kids said, "We teased the little kids too and called them names." But the little girl and boy just smiled and said thank you and agreed with us. Usually little kids cry when we tease them. But these two, they just smiled and said thank you. Then we ran over their sand castle until it was just nothing, just piles of sand. We thought for sure they were going to be upset, but no. They said thank you because we gave them a chance to build an even bigger and better sandcastle. They said thank you so much. It wasn't any fun to bully them or tease them or destroy their things. And the teacher smiled and said, "So, what did you learn from the little girl and the little boy?" So the school bully was quiet for a bit, and he thought about it, and he said, sometimes things don't go the way I want them to go. And I bully kids, little kids that are littler than me, because it makes me feel big and strong and important. But in my heart, I'm really lonely because I'm so much bigger than those other kids, and they're afraid of me. I just want to be friends with them. The teacher smiled and said, "Well, that's pretty wise. Sometimes we do things without thinking that end up hurting other people more than it hurts us." And then the bigger kids, the other big kids, thought very carefully and said, yeah, we only tease little kids because we're secretly afraid someone else will tease us and bully us. We're afraid someone will call us names or make fun of us. We just want to be friends. And the teacher smiled again and said, that's also very wise. Sometimes we try to hurt other people's feelings because we're afraid that maybe they're going to hurt our feelings. The little girl and the little boy smiled at the teacher and said, thank you, teacher. You taught us that life can be difficult sometimes, but it's a chance maybe to be kind and gentle to every living thing. Does that sound familiar? Right? Like the golden chain. And teacher, you taught us that things are impermanent. Nothing lasts forever, but that means we can start all over again. And maybe we should be thankful for everything that actually happens in life. And the teacher smiled and said, you children are wise. Now, what will we do? What will you all do today? And the school bully, all the big kids, the little girl and the little boy smiled and said, you know what? We're going to say thank you too much. We're going to say thank you too much and share what we have, speak pure and beautiful words, and play together in harmony. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, teacher. So all the children lived happily ever after, playing together in harmony on the white sandy beach in a magical place called San Diego, a beautiful city next to the blue Pacific Ocean. Now, who do you think that teacher was? Who could that teacher have been? Any ideas? Yes. Well, Amida Buddha? Yeah, Amida Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, Shinran Shonin, and all of our teachers of the Dharma. So kids, remember, you will always have problems. We all, even as big people, we always have problems. But if we can listen to the Dharma and learn from the Dharma, hopefully we'll learn to be resilient and we'll learn how to deal with those problems in a healthy and positive way so that we and our family and our friends can live happy and peaceful lives together. So please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, and I hope that you have a good day in class today. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I hope that we will see you again next Sunday.
Thank you, Sensei, for your great story. We hear many Dharma talks, and we always are mindful of thinking about beyond ourselves and going from the me to the we. Are there any announcements?
Good morning, everybody. We're going to be running our yearly winter clothing donation drive starting in November. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Like always, it's going to be we're going to be collecting anything warm, sweaters, jackets, thick socks, that sort of thing. And like always, we're going to be working with Streets of Hope, a nonprofit, a local nonprofit that supports San Diego's homeless population. So that's going to be November 1st through mid-December. We're going to be posting something on the website and also in the monthly newsletter, but just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Thank you.
Good morning. Just a heads up about our fundraiser, our Makizushi fundraiser for the BWA, Buddhist Women's Association. It's $7 a roll, and that's going to be a pickup date is the Eitai-kyo day, which is November 13th, Sunday after service. And the other announcement is it's also, both of the order forms are in the Kaiho, the newsletter, and also on the website, I believe. And that is for our
fabulous, fabulous almond brittle sale. And so we have, I think, the same prices as last year. We have the 1 pound bag of almond brittle, the 5-ounce bag, and then the popcorn. And then we've added a new item this year, the hot sweets. And so Margot Spears is in charge of that. And so please place your orders in. Pickup will be just before Thanksgiving. We'll get it before Thanksgiving. So if you need to send it out of state or out of town anyway, you can pick it up before Thanksgiving. Otherwise, the pickup day will be on Mochitsuki Day, which is December 11th. Thanks.
Thank you. And just a reminder that the Dharma School is collecting new stuffed animals for the Ronald McDonald House Charities, and there is a collection box in the back. If you're interested and you have any questions, you can see your Dharma School teachers or myself. Thank you. Okay, at this time we're going to excuse the Dharma School students for their classes. And I realize I did mess up into the service schedule. I only do this, once every 5 years or something. But I'm sorry, I missed the recitation. We were supposed to do of our pledge. So I'll just read it while the Dharma School students are doing Oshoko. This is our pledge written by Gomonshu Otani Kojun. Breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who tirelessly works to liberate all. Thank you. We'll now continue with the adult portion of the service. We will begin with the reading of the Vandana and Tisarana, and these can be found on page 96 of your service book.
Please join in the recitation from the very beginning. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho. Namo Kie So. Namo Vidabutsu. Namo Vidabutsu. Namo Vidabutsu. Namandabutsu. 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 Namandabutsu.
Thank you. Laverne Sensei will now give us a Dharma message.
Good morning again. How many of you have multiple email accounts and passwords? I'm sure most of you, right? Okay. So please join me in Gassho as I read some translated words of Shinran Shonin. Oops, sorry. The light of compassion that grasps us, illuminates and protects us always. The darkness of our ignorance is already broken through. Still, the clouds and mists of greed and desire, anger and hatred cover, as always, the sky of true and real Shinjin. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists, there is brightness, not dark. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. So I'd like to continue with the theme of my children's Dharma talk today, which was resilience. And as many of us who share Dharma messages do, I started by looking online for a definition of resilience. And here's what I found on the American, I found a lot of definitions, but the one I liked the most was from the website for the American Psychological Association. And they actually had a web page specific to resilience. And I'm just going to read what it says on that web page. It says, quote, resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. A number of factors contribute to how well people adapt to adversities, predominant among them the ways in which individuals view and engage with the world, the availability and quality of social resources, and specific coping strategies. Psychological research demonstrates that the resources and skills associated with more positive adaptation, that is, greater resilience, can be cultivated and practiced. So I like that. It did remind me of the image of the Dharma, right? That little doll that you can push it down and it bounces back up. That is our symbolism of resilience. And then what I did was I searched for stories, particularly for the children, that might reflect this idea of resilience. You know, how do I share in a story that idea of what resilience is? And that's when I came upon Kiyohara Sensei's website. And as I mentioned, he is the resident minister of the Makawao Honganji Buddhist Temple in Hawaii. And I love it that his website is titled, Just Say Mahalo. And for you that are familiar with Hawaiian words, you know that mahalo means thank you. Just say thank you, right? It's reminiscent of Kenji Sensei's teachings while he was here. And the subtitle of his Just Say Mahalo website is First Drafts, Random Thoughts, Buddhist Humor. So I would encourage you, his website is Kiyohara, KIYOHARA.com. It's a wonderful website. And I found his style to be somewhat similar to that of Kenji Akahoshi Sensei. What I've learned since Kenji and Karen Akahoshi left about a year ago, I can't believe it's been a year, is that many of our Sangha members deeply appreciated Kenji Sensei's messages. And those messages included saying, please, and he said, let's shift to saying thank you. And let's try to change ourselves from within, right? Change ourselves from always thinking about I or me first to thinking about others. And that's when I reminded the kids today. Remember when he used to say, from me to we. In fact, not only those new to Buddhism, but longtime Jodo Shinshu Sangha members who grew up in the temple, maybe not here, but other temples, shared that they began to truly understand the essence of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism for the first time when they listened to Kenji Sensei's messages, to his Dharma talks. You might even say that they were awakened to the Dharma. And so for this theme of resilience, I went back to some of Kenji Sensei's writings to figure out, okay, how best can I share with you today ways in which the Dharma, the teachings of Shakyamuni, Shinran, and Kenji Sensei, and so many other teachers help us to develop resilience in order to cope and even thrive in our day-to-day lives. I'm just going to sidestep here a little bit, and I am of the baby boom generation. Many of you are in that same generation as I am. So we've been through those really difficult years of juggling our work lives, raising children. But this past week, my daughter and son-in-law were both out of town on business trips. Actually, they were gone pretty much from Friday through the following Friday. And so I got to be with my two wonderful granddaughters. They're 9 and 11. But oh my goodness. I mean, I thought that my daughter had a busy schedule when she was growing up, but these two little girls, I mean, it was like soccer almost every night and some kind of activity. My younger granddaughter has judo or karate lessons one night a week, and then soccer, 2 or 3 other nights a week, and then soccer all day Saturday. By the time my daughter and son-in-law came home, I have to tell you, I was exhausted. I was really tired. And there were times during that week, most of the time it was fine. We got along great. But there were some times when I thought, I don't know if I can keep doing this, and it's like, this is really hard stuff. How do I cope, right? But the way for me to cope was to remember that I was very, very lucky. I was very, very thankful to have these two wonderful young people in my life to remind me, how fortunate I was. So I'm just going to go back to my actual Dharma talk. So for those of you that are in the midst of careers, raising children, just balancing all of your children's activities, your own activities, I want to say thank you for making time to come to the temple, to bring your children to the temple, to learn the Dharma. I want to thank you for coming to the temple to hear the Dharma yourselves. Because we need resilience, right? We need something to help us get through these tough times in life. Okay, so the opening passage that I read was from Shinran Shonin's Kyogyo Shinsho. And it was the one that was quoted by Kenji Sensei in the article that he wrote for Tricycle Magazine back 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, in the fall of 2020. So I'd like to quote from his article, but I want to first reread that passage written by Shinran Shonin. So please join me in Gassho and listen to the words as I read them. The light of compassion that grasps us illuminates and protects us always. The darkness of our ignorance is already broken through. Still, the clouds and mists of greed and desire, anger and hatred, cover as always the sky of true and real Shinjin. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists there is brightness, not dark. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And Kenji Sensei wrote in his article, so he says that in this verse, the clouds and the mist represent the source of our discontent, our unhappiness. They are the egocentric desires noted by the Buddha in the Second Noble Truth, the cause of suffering, right? And our basic ignorance and attachment to our ego self cover the truths, cover the sky of truths. And yet, Shinran points out that even with those obstructions, even with those obstacles, there is brightness. There is the sun always shining, not dark. And Shinran continues, when one realizes Shinjin, seeing and revering and attaining great joy, one immediately leaps crosswise, closing off the 5 evil courses. And this crosswise leap, you'll hear about it as you listen to the Dharma. It is this profound shift of perspective. It poses a path to awakening that is not reliant, it doesn't rely on future expectation. Instead, it's based on this very real assessment of what is today, of today's reality, of the reality of now. And what Kenji Sensei says, he says, Shin Buddhism, focus on what has been received rather than on what might be achieved. So when we say Namo Abhina Butsu, right? It's not a prayer. It's not a prayer for a better life. It's not a prayer for happiness, right? It is saying thank you. It's an expression of gratitude for having the compassion of Amida Buddha guarantee our salvation. It's knowing that we are embraced, fully embraced, grasped, and not to be forgotten. So Kenji Sensei says, this practice of Nembutsu, invoking the Buddha of the Western Pure Land, called Amida in Japanese, by voicing Namo Amida Butsu, it's an expression of gratitude. And so to conclude my Dharma talk today, I'd like to go back to this idea of resilience and how we can learn to be resilient by listening to the Dharma. If in fact resilience is the process and the outcome of adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, and the factors that contribute to how well we adapt to those adversities includes the way in which we view and engage with the world, then maybe this attitude of gratitude that is the essence of Namo Amida Butsu is perhaps a very essential factor. It's our ability to face challenges, to be able to shift our perspective, shift our reliance on expectation, and instead focus on what Kenji Sensei says, on what has been received rather than what may be achieved or what may be expected to be achieved. This, then, is the practice of Namo Amida Butsu. This is the practice of the Nembutsu, to see the brightness, not the dark. And this shift, it's not external, but it's an internal shift, a change that occurs within ourselves, a change that you must experience for yourselves. And so I would ask that you think about the meaning, the true meaning of Namo Amida Butsu, and hopefully experience that shift of gratitude. So please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Laverne Sensei. We will now sing the Gatha Ondoksan 2, which can be found on page 128 in your service book. If you could please rise.
Oh
Thank you. Please be seated. We will now have a closing meditation. Like roots snaking into the earth, I will create a solid foundation before reaching for the moon. Like swaying branches in the wind, I can move, bend, and even break, but challenging times will not cause me to fall. Gasho, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Butsu. Thank you very much for attending today's service. Thank you to Laverne Sensei for officiating today's Shotsuki Hoyo service and for wonderful Dharma messages. To Sharon Sasaki for ringing the kancho and setting up the onaijin. Robert Yamamoto for his beautiful guitar accompaniment. And to Brevin Honda for his tech wizardry today. And I apologize to Brevin, he's not here right now, but for changing up this schedule for the live stream. So if you'd like to, you may offer incense, and please join us afterwards for downstairs for hospitality.